I have one question for you. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Senator, President Biden was certified as the president and served 4 years.
It's very clear that all of our nominees acknowledge who actually won the election is pretty disturbing when we are expectation that judges will rely on facts.
What happens when a senator asks judicial nominees, people who will be tasked with determining truth from fiction in a courtroom, a simple yes or no question about who won the 2020 election, and not one of them can answer directly? Senator Mazie Hirono's questioning of federal judge nominees becomes a masterclass in exposing how political coaching has replaced factual accountability, even among those who will hold the power to decide the law.
Since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
Good morning, ma'am. No, I have not.
No, Senator.
No, Senator, I have not.
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
Have you ever faced discipline or entered into a settlement relating to this kind of conduct?
No, I have not.
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
Mr. Davis, as an attorney, you defended Fox News Network when it was sued for defamation by Dominion Voting Systems after the 2020 election. And Dominion alleged that several Fox News reporters made false statements about its voting machines, and ultimately Fox News settled for $700 million. So clearly, Fox News had trouble telling fact from fiction. It is very important, to say the least, that judges rely on facts to make their decisions. I have one question for you. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election? Yes or no?
Senator, President Biden was certified as the president and served 4 years.
It's very clear that all of our nominees have been coached to respond in that way, and the fact that none of you can acknowledge who actually won the election is pretty disturbing when we are focused on the expectation that judges will rely on facts. This is for Judge Shepard. You attended Rice University in Houston, Texas, and you have previously stated that you appreciated the diversity of the student body, and that diversity, to quote you, helps better our understanding. I'm putting the word "our" in there, understanding of the world, end quote. I hope that you still believe that. And I think you must be aware that this administration has a disdain for diversity and DEI programs. In fact, President Trump, one of the first executive orders he issued upon being inaugurated was to direct every department to eliminate any and all support for DEI. And this has led to withholding of funds and even de-emphasizing and eliminating official celebrations and observances of events that can be characterized as supportive of DEI, such as Juneteenth. For example, the national park has eliminated the fee-free days for Martin Luther King Jr. Day and Juneteenth, and replaced, incredibly, free day celebrating Donald Trump's birthday. You know, the anti-DEI sentiment of this regime, as I refer to it because of its authoritarianism, permeates this administration's priorities. So, frankly, any organization celebrating or supporting the diversity of our country is discouraged from doing so. So people are getting the message that that is not a good idea to do that, even if that is their desire. Judge Shepard, don't you think that anti-DEI could lead to discrimination against minorities, including women, because women are included as part of DEI?
Senator, thank you for the question. The speech you're referring to was a discussion given to prospective college students, and the nature of those comments related to the benefit of going to a school, experiencing different people, the fact that we live in an era, there's a global economy, and it benefits you to experience diversity in all ranges, not simply race. As your question relates to any legal issues, as a sitting judge and a nominee to this position, I can't wade into matters of debate amongst Congress. Under the judicial canons, I cannot answer that question.
I think that you still acknowledge that we live in a diverse country, and I would say that the anti-DEI sentiment definitely creates an environment where discrimination against minorities would happen. So that is disturbing. For Ms. St. John, you were formerly a fellow at the Independent Women's Forum, which had previously advocated for exceptions to the right to access contraception for women. Now, the Supreme Court decisions, Griswold and Eisenstadt, stands for the proposition that the Constitution protects the right to access contraception. So would you consider these two cases to be settled law, and that as a district judge, should you be confirmed, that you would follow those precedents?
If I am so fortunate as to be confirmed as a district court judge, I would be bound by all Supreme Court precedent.
Would you consider the two cases I mentioned to be settled law?
I would have to look and see whether they've been overturned, Senator. If they're binding law, I would apply them.
No. That's a no.
Senator Kennedy.
Senator Mazie Hirono's questioning of judicial nominees exposes a crisis far deeper than partisan disagreement: the erosion of factual accountability among those being entrusted to interpret and uphold the law. Her questions are not ideological litmus tests. They are basic assessments of whether nominees can acknowledge observable reality. When judicial candidates cannot or will not state plainly who won the 2020 election, whether diversity benefits society, or whether constitutional protections for contraception are settled law, they reveal that political loyalty has overtaken judicial independence before they even take the bench. The exchange begins with Hirono's standard opening questions about sexual misconduct, establishing baseline character and integrity. The real test comes when Hirono turns to Mr. Davis, who defended Fox News in the Dominion voting system's defamation case that ended in a $700 million settlement. Fox News made false statements about voting machines, demonstrating that the network had trouble telling fact from fiction. For someone nominated to the federal judiciary, a role demanding the ability to distinguish truth from falsehood, this background is significant. Hirono asks, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election? Yes or no? Davis's answer is telling. President Biden was certified as the president and served 4 years. This is not an answer to the question asked. It is a coached deflection designed to avoid stating the simple truth that Trump lost. Hirono calls it out. It's very clear that all of our nominees have been coached to respond in that way, and the fact that none of you can acknowledge who actually won the election is pretty disturbing when we are focused on the expectation that judges will rely on facts. This matters because judges are supposed to base decisions on evidence, precedent, and factual reality. If a nominee cannot acknowledge a verified electoral outcome, certified by all 50 states, upheld in over 60 court cases, and confirmed by Trump's own election security officials, what other facts will they decline to recognize when political pressure mounts? Hirono then shifts to Judge Shepard, highlighting his previous statements praising diversity at Rice University. Shepard once said diversity helps better our understanding of the world. Hirono contrasts this with the current administration's aggressive dismantling of DEI initiatives, noting that Trump's executive orders directed every federal department to eliminate support for diversity programs. The consequences: funding withheld, official celebrations of Martin Luther King Jr. Day and Juneteenth eliminated at national parks, and replaced with a free day celebrating Donald Trump's birthday. Hirono asks Shepard, don't you think that anti-DEI could lead to discrimination against minorities, including women? Shepard's response is evasive, citing judicial canons. Yet Hirono's question is not about pending legislation. It is about whether eliminating protections against discrimination creates an environment where discrimination thrives. The most alarming moment comes when Hirono questions Ms. St. John, a former fellow at the Independent Women's Forum, an organization that has advocated for exceptions to contraception access. Hirono asks whether Griswold v. Connecticut and Eisenstadt v. Baird, which establish constitutional protections for contraception, are settled law. St. John responds, I would have to look and see whether they've been overturned, Senator. Hirono's assessment is immediate. That's a no. Griswold and Eisenstadt have been established precedent for over half a century. A qualified judicial nominee should know this without needing to look and see. The evasion signals either ignorance or unwillingness to affirm protections that conservative legal movements have openly targeted for reversal. This hearing is a snapshot of a judicial confirmation process overtaken by political calculation. Nominees are coached to avoid direct answers, deflect with procedural language, and refuse to acknowledge facts that might displease the political coalition backing their appointments. When judges cannot acknowledge who won an election, whether discrimination is harmful, or whether foundational precedents are settled law, they are not fit to serve.